Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian and I honor your presence here today. Today we have a very wonderful special guest. Her name is Britnee Bond. She's a personal friend of mine. She is a co-founder of something called the Remote Collective, which is a social enterprise of sort of a support network for expats of all ages, technically globally, but centered, based here in Koh Phangan in Thailand. She has traveled to and lived in over 50 countries. I am not visibly jealous, I hope. And let's see, she is also a personal coach specializing in shadow work, mainly for women, but not exclusively so. And she's also, you could say, a midwife for birthing newborn digital nomads from the corporate world into the digital nomad universe here in Thailand. So without any further ado, I welcome my friend, Britnee Bond.
Hello, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, and I'm sure that our guests will really appreciate your presence here today, everything that you're offering, Britnee. Britnee, the thing that we kind of decided would be the obvious discussion for us to have today is, as we mentioned before, shadow work. Well, we're certainly all full of it, so to speak. And I would say that the bravest and perhaps the most determined among us are the ones who turn around and face it and work on it. And I'm going to start getting all kinds of quotes as that relate to what we're talking about. The very first one that I think of now is Ram Dass, whose quote has stayed with me forever since I've seen it. And that quote is, "The best thing you can do for me is work on you. And the best thing I can do for you is work on me." And having known you as a friend, I know that you have done an awful lot of work on you, which is a huge reason why you're such a wonderful person and why I've invited you to share with us today. Let's hear about your journey, Britnee, and how your challenges and your struggles and your suffering have shaped you and where they've brought you at this point in your life.
Yeah, I was just thinking how the first time I actually met you, I was just coming back from on a very beautiful psychedelic journey that was very healing for me. But yeah, I grew up in California. I grew up in what a lot of people consider a religious cult, and I also had a very abusive dad. So all of these things combined made it so I didn't have the greatest childhood, and I had a lot of programming. I call it programming that I wanted to change about myself. And I think the baseline for me has always been a lot of joy. Like I felt like things, I always, no matter how bad things got, I was like, things have to be better than this. Like I deserve to be treated better than this, or, the world has to be better than this. And so I think that's what drove me to leave the cult, and I put myself through school. I went to law school, and I had a very corporate life for a while, and then even that I was like, I want to get out of here. So then I started a travel company, and I've been traveling full time and outside of the US since 2015. But when it comes to my spiritual journey, I would have to admit that for a long time I was in survival mode, where I was just shoving it down and trying to make sure that I put a lot of space in between me and my past. And I think for me, that was step one, was just like, I'm okay. I didn't have any family support. All of my family, when I left the cult, they didn't want to talk to me ever again. So I had to support myself financially, emotionally, physically, everything. And so it took a long time for me to just kind of in my body realize I was safe and away. And then coming to Thailand has been really special for me. I feel very held here emotionally and spiritually, and especially being here on Koh Phangan. It's some tiny island below Bangkok, and it's really well known for a lot of spirituality and personal development. And I think the thing that really started for me was I've always worked. I've probably been a workaholic since I was 18. for many different reasons. And mostly I was in survival mode. And when I got here, I got dengue, a scooter accident, and a breakup all within a month. And it was kind of the universe saying, you need to slow down and like look at a lot of things. And that, I think that was the beginning of my spiritual journey.
You might say that's the Southeast Asia trifecta, by the way. Because if you don't leave here with some sort of motorbike accident scar or wound, you really haven't been here. And the dengue, I'm a 4-timer.
Wow.
And the breakup, just the distance and the, hey, this is a completely different lens that I'm seeing myself through now compared to the one that I had been seeing myself through when I was in that other relationship or you know, et cetera. Things just start to, the place changes you.
For sure. And I think the thing that really got me was for a long time after I left the call, I was like, I need to chase joy. I need to like personal development, positivity. Like I was programming all of this positivity into myself, which I think is great. I think there's a place for that. But the thing that I have recently in the last couple of years realized is how much we need to create space for our shadow and to face and integrate our unconscious selves. And we were talking about Carl Jung before it started, was like, there's this big part of our unconscious that wants to be known, wants to be seen to the light. And if we can embrace that part of ourselves, how much more embodied can we be? How much more growth can we actually have? All the things we actually want, we can have a lot faster if we face our shadows.
My favorite Carl Jung quote, which has some relevance here, is until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw that over and over again in my own life. I was able to manifest many beautiful things, crazy things. People think that my life is this one big adventure, but I also had a lot of emotional pain behind the scenes for different reasons, because I was recreating that childhood trauma, recreating these things because it wanted to be met. It wanted to come to light so it could be healed. Right. And I think over the last 2 years, I've been able to do that I did a 10-day silent meditation retreat called Vipassana. I've done ayahuasca, which is a beautiful plant medicine. I meditate every single day. I have a morning practice. I journal, meditate, yoga, dance. And it goes to me. And there's all these things that I do that kind of like bring it up. And then there's specifically on this island, some beautiful facilitators who hold actual shadow workshops, where it's just like, we are just going to face our shadow for the whole weekend. And I feel so called to learn how to facilitate those and bring that to more people.
And everybody needs it. I can't say that everybody's able to do it. I mean, there are some people, sometimes it's ourselves, who we don't have the tools, or at least we don't have the tools yet to do it. But thank God for those that are, the ones that have the courage and the determination and the perseverance to face all this. Because I mean, you know, dark night of the soul stuff, it's all one big nebula. It is very difficult, and it's often very painful. And I will also say, it's also, because I've done my share of it so far too, it's very confusing sometimes. And I'm going to guess you'll relate to this. There's a lot of times throughout such a process of shadow work or dark night of the soul, however you want to frame it, where you say, am I losing my mind? Seriously, am I losing? No, seriously, am I losing my mind? And there's a part of you that says, yeah, you really are. And then there's another part of you that says, it's about time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the problem.
Let me lose that mind. Let me lose that mind.
Yeah.
You know, John Moyer, or if I said his name wrong, I'm sorry. Off into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul. Can't help it. Millions of quotes up in here that just flash as they're lit up with the same principles. What would you say was your hardest struggle, your greatest suffering? You don't have to give us excessive details. You can keep those to yourself as you wish, but what would you say really, really was your greatest challenge that you've been through so far? I mean, you told us about your start in life is You really signed up for a lot there.
Yeah, something in the universe was like, I want all this. I want to work through this.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the hardest thing for me is
Choose your curriculum. I'll take it all.
yeah, seriously. The hardest thing for me is I really miss my family. Like I had a very close relationship with my sisters and my mom. My older sister and she's like my best friend growing up. And she has two little girls now, and I would love to be in their life and be an active part of them growing up. And that's really painful for me, you know. And when I try and explain it to people, like people cannot fathom the reality of my life, pretty much. And so it's been hard to, yeah. I feel sometimes I think my biggest struggle is to keep reminding myself that I can make chosen family and I can have this community that can fulfill this need. But at the end of the day, I just really miss my family. And sometimes I feel really alone in that.
Are you speaking specifically of the matter of being sort of ostracized when you withdrew from the cult?
Yeah, and that's the only reason why they won't speak to me. And like it's like my mom like loves me, my sisters love me, but they program them that the more that they, you know, or like ignore me or won't talk to me, it'll motivate me to come back and my eternal salvation is at stake. So that's what they're really worried about. I'm like, you're missing out on this whole life together that we have on this timeline.
Yeah. There's an ineffable amount of effect, I'll even say damage, that can be done by what I'm going to speak about in a future episode, which is called agreed upon realities. Mm-hmm. They can be political, they can be social, they can be religious, they can very much be religious. But they're typically social, political, and religious. And these agreed upon realities, you know, we all agree that this is what it is and how it's supposed to be and how it must be. And we're going to draw that line here. And this is all those who abide and comply by this reality. You're on the inside, you're insiders, you're one of us. And if you dare stray from that, well, then you've breached, you know, something, you know, unbreachable, and you're an outcast. And in certain extreme cases, I mean, look at how, you know, terrorists are. You know, if you go too far away from thinking like me, well, I'm so threatened by that I need to eliminate you. But I'll get into that in another episode later. But that whole template, that matrix of agreed upon realities, look at what it is costing just in your own personal life. You know, you're ready, willing, and able to love and accept and engage with your family, but that agreed upon reality is too powerful in their mind right now.
And I believe that everything happens for a reason. So I think because of having that taken away from me, it's like a rubber band effect. Like it's like I have all of this energy to give. And this is why I do so much community building. This is why we built Remote Collective, because I know exactly how it feels to not belong somewhere and to feel like I don't have any support network. And I don't want anyone to ever feel like that. And I think that's something that is my gift I can give to the world because I have gone through it in a very visceral way. But I wanted to share, have you read a book called Prometheus Rising?
I've heard of it several times. I haven't read it yet.
Robert Anton Wilson. If not, I highly recommend it because that is the thing that made me not crazy. And he talks exactly about what you just said about everything is programming. Everything is, and there's even a chapter in the book of this is how you build a cult. It was written in the 1980s. A lot of cults are based on this book. But it's just about societal programming, military programming, sexual program, everything is programming. And so we get to choose at any moment which program we want to be on and whether we want to be programmed or not.
I will order it after our conversation. I'm like that because I don't want to forget it. I've heard of that book several times, but this was such a strong, ping that I'm just going to order it as soon as.
Anyone who wants to go through shadow work, I highly recommend it because it's like something that kind of saved my life in a way. Because everything else was like, scratching the surface. And this is the core of how you program people. Yeah. This is how you brainwash people. This is how you can like build yourself back up in neuroprogramming. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand everything.
And I like though, Britnee, how you acknowledged the In other words, how you receive and how you process these challenges in life and how they can actually serve you. In other words, well, I have to say the Rumi quote, grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life's search for love and wisdom. The whole point that we need to remember from that is that grief can be the garden of compassion. Of course, a garden involves work and maintenance and, tilling and tending that garden all the time. But you are obviously a living example of someone who has made their own grief, their own suffering and challenges into a garden. You've composted all of that and and made it into rich fertilizer for not only yourself but others. Tell us how you're sharing what you've been through, the fruit of your own suffering.
Yeah, I think, especially in the religion I grew up in and also my own personal life, especially women were very much like pushed down. And so I have done a lot of empowerment with women, especially in business. And I've organized women's festivals, accelerator programs, boot camps that just help women feel like they can be brave in whatever way they want to.
Mm.
And then with the community stuff, we have events for kids, teenagers, single moms, like we're older people, we're supporting everyone in a community in order to help them to realize, and what I say at the end of every event is the best way that you can give back is to keep building on this, keep creating more support and more community. So it's kind of like, in a way, I'm helping people wake up to, one, they can be brave and do the things they want to do, but also they can be advocates for creating this community and support network. Everyone can, whether it's just like, when you think of something nice, you send that person a message. My mom always taught me that, and or like, ask them out for coffee or create a little meetup yourself.
Yeah.
It's like we can keep building this network of support, and to me, that's the biggest way that we can keep ourselves programmed in the way that we want to, instead of letting social media or the government or whoever else wants to program us.
And as they say, love isn't love till you give it away.
Yeah.
You need to express how many times when you are just sort of lost in your own thoughts, or you're just zoned out and somebody just keeps pinging your radar, somebody just keeps popping up. That is a signal. And, it took me a while in my life to learn that that's a signal and to respond. And sometimes, it's kind of me feeling the need to contact that person or reach out to that person. And other times it's the opposite, where that person has been thinking of me and wanting, and the next thing you know, how many times has this happened where you'll call or you'll email or message and say, I was just thinking of you. You've been on my mind. Yeah, I'm responding because, that quantum entanglement thing is going on. But yeah. And Britnee, can you tell us what we mentioned, the remote collective? Can you give us a better example of what you're doing with that?
Yeah, so we have a community space here on the island. I'm sitting in it right now, and we have events happening here every single day, 2 or 3 events. It's usually around personal development or connection. So we have stuff like authentic relating and nonviolent communication courses. And then we do community dinners where we all, like 20 or 30 people, will get together and cook together. And then we have a sharing circle where we talk about what's going on for us that week and hold space for each other. But we utilize the power of the community to help nonprofits in the area. So we did a fundraiser for the local animal shelter, and one day we were able to raise over $1,000 US. Like, we take a different charities on the island and spend like 3 months and use our volunteers and our business consulting experience to help them. So a lot of charities are very understaffed and under-resourced.
I think what you're doing is incredible and very beautiful.
Yeah, and it's just the beginning.
Thank you, and I'm sure that many thank you with me.
Well, we've had a lot of people, because we used to have a co-living. We took over a hotel and we all lived together as a co-living experience, and now we are about to launch that again. So we're going to move the community space into a resort, which has like 50 rooms and a yoga shala, and then people can come and experience it, where they can stay with us and like land here and work remotely or do whatever whatever deprogramming they need to do, and have like 3 meals a day and yoga and workshops. And this is something where I'm like feeling very strongly about wanting to incorporate shadow workshops into this, and different ways where people can move through not just the positive things, but also all of the junk that they need to work through. And I think that's a very beautiful process.
I've got all kinds of poetry going through my head as you describe these things. Like I want to say you've built a nucleus, and then I was like, oh, but it's a womb, but it's a chrysalis. You've built this real. You know what? I think that what you've built is what a sacred space really is. And I just commend you for that. I mean, I knew you were doing this, but I didn't know extremely fine details about it, yet. And I just commend you, and I'm sure everyone that's watching feels the same way. What you're doing is magnificent and necessary and so helpful. Ram Dass again, we're all walking each other home. Well, you're really, really doing your part. You've really turned your own previous trials and suffering and challenges into a beautiful garden. You really have. You've really turned grief into the garden of compassion and growth. And what a wonderful thing you're doing.
I also feel really strongly about inviting everyone to get involved as well, because I don't think it's going to take off in the way that it needs to without our community support. So if there's people who are watching this that want to get involved in some way or come visit us, like, please do reach out. We're always here. Because I think that's how we've gotten as big as we have in such a short amount of time. We've been working on the project for 6 months now, and it's like, what? We're looking at hotels now to take over. I'm going to look at land tomorrow because we have investors that want to build an eco village here and grow our own food. There's just like, it's like things are happening so quickly, and yeah, I wanted to feel like home when in this community space, when people walk in, they say to us the first time here, they're like, I just feel at home here. Like, I just feel so welcomed, and we're like, yay, mission accomplished. Now, and then we encourage them, now help the next person who walks through the door feel at home.
Right, right. Well, that's the notion of contribute your share. None of us is expected or asked or required to do it all, but just do your portion. Like we're one spark plug in the big engine, so, or one cylinder in the big engine, we just do your share, and then that collective adds up a lot. I just did a similar fundraiser that worked the same way. I had no idea what was going to happen. I had a really good feeling about it because the energy just felt very clean and good about it. And within 3 days, we reached more than double what the goal was.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, I know the feeling of when something really works out well, how wonderful it is. I just can't compliment and commend you enough. I would say this, I honor what you're doing, Britnee. I honor you. Yeah.
Thank you. I want you to come down and hang out with us.
Well, now I have to, after learning all these, finer details.
I mean, all the stuff you've sent us is here on the altar.
I don't want to cry in my interview, so okay. Thank you.
Your energy is already here with us. Now you need to come in physical form.
Thank you very much. Stuff like that goes right to my heart. Britnee, can you tell us, and I'll put links and everything in the description, can you tell us if somebody is interested in contacting you personally directly, maybe they're interested in doing some shadow work, or maybe they want to learn more about the remote collective, or they want to learn more about your women's healing groups that you do and everything like that, and thank you for that. How would you recommend that they reach you? You can give more than one portal as well.
Yeah, I'm on all the social medias under my name. So I have a website called BritneeBond.com.
Okay,
that has my consulting, coaching. It has stuff about Remote Collective, kind of just everything I'm working on. And then I have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find online.
Britnee Bond.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know you have a YouTube channel. Let's plug that. What's the name
Remote
of your YouTube
Collective.
channel? The Remote Collective. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll put all of those links for those that are interested. And is there anything that you would like to leave with us to keep in our hearts until the next time that I have you back, because I'm definitely going to invite you back again.
Yeah, I think just to remind everyone that even if you're going through a really hard time, like it always gets better, and like you can choose. You have the choice whether this becomes something that is something that's empowering for you and empowering for other people. So that's what I just sharing what it reminds I remind myself is like whenever I'm going through a really hard time, I'm like, okay, one day I'm gonna be able to use this to help someone else. You know, if nothing else, this is something I can get through for the collective and be able to report back on.
If nothing else, it's training you to be able to help others to heal themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's all we can do that so much more. I feel like we all have the capacity to heal ourselves and each other so much more than we realize. And that's something that I hope everyone realizes.
Yeah. Little by little, everyone will. And Britnee, the last quote to close off our beautiful conversation comes from Khalil Gibran, one of my favorites. Out of suffering have emerged the strongest souls. The most massive characters are seared with scars. So, Britnee, I honor you, and what you're doing is wonderful. I definitely will come down and visit you. And I thank you for being who you are and offering so freely of yourself to so many. And I hope that those who view this wonderful conversation that Britnee has shared with us today will reach out to her and, you know, receive what it is she's offering. She's a wonderful person. Otherwise, I would never have asked you on.
Thank you so
So,
much for having me.
oh, my pleasure. I thank you. And I remind all of our wonderful viewers as well to abide in thankfulness for your highest good in the most benevolent outcome of the divine will.